Are you writing directly from yourself? Are you writing outside yourself? Are you writing to be seen or feel heard? Are you writing to deliver a message to the world that only you can tell and that the world needs to hear? I want to take some time to give you some of my thoughts on how you as a writer can stop being afraid of the message that you want to put out into the world, to come into yourself and your voice fully without fear, and then to publish without fear. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Robin and I post about everything to do with the writing and publishing process. I also help authors who seek to self-publish their books with every step of the process, from first draft to finished product. So if you're looking to self-publish your work and don't know where to start, feel free to reach out. I've linked all that down in the description below. The other week, I made a video about drafting and publishing your first book. In it, I mentioned writing outside yourself as something that I like to do when I write my books. This has helped me overcome the fear of publishing my work and putting my stories out for the world to read. So I thought I'd make a video outlining why I do this, what it is exactly, and how you can use it in your writing as well. This works especially well if you, like I was, are afraid to put your writing out there. You're afraid of what people might think of your work. You're just having a lot of fear and doubt around that. Aspiring writers have often come to me asking me, how is it possible to write completely honest and raw while not being afraid of judgment, not being afraid of what others think of your words and what you write. I understand the struggle of speaking your truth. The first series I wrote, I was so afraid of putting out there and of what people would think of it that I subconsciously delayed writing and publishing it for 12 years. The current book I'm writing now is going to editors, beta readers, ARC readers, and I don't feel that same amount of fear that I did for when I was publishing my first series. It feels a lot different now. It's more excitement than anything. Why is that? You might say that it probably comes with practice. The series was early on. That was the first series that I was writing. It's natural to feel uncomfortable when it's your first time doing something. But even though the series was the first set of books I wrote, it wasn't actually the first set of books that I published. And I made a video on this, talking in detail about how the first set of books I wrote actually took 12 years to publish, whereas the first book that I actually published took a single month. Feel free to check that out if you like. I'll link it up here and in the description down below. But the first book I actually published, I wrote after that series, and that was The Boathouse. This was the first book I published, and I actually had more confidence around this book. Like, I felt less fear publishing this book, even though the subject matter is a lot darker and more controversial than the subject matter in my series. And this was the first book I published, whereas I published the series after this. I've since come to a deeper realization of why my series was so hard to publish, why that was so much harder than my other books. And my series is the Scientists and Girls series. That's the one I'm referring to. Bad Blood, Killing Jar, and Human Nature. The series of 3 books that I have up on Amazon. The key to this understanding lies in the way that I approach writing, the way that we as writers approach writing. It also has to do with why you're writing and where you're writing from. And I've boiled this down to 4 main questions. And these are questions you can ask yourself when you're writing to see where you're writing from and why you're writing as well. The first is, are you writing directly from yourself? The second is, are you writing outside yourself? Are you writing to be seen or feel heard? Are you writing to deliver a message to the world that only you can tell and that the world needs to hear? I'll get to why I was afraid of putting this series out in a moment. But first, I want to take some time to give you some of my thoughts on how you as a writer can stop being afraid of the message that you want to put out into the world, to come into yourself and your voice fully without fear, and then to publish without fear. Number 1 is that you are not your words. Among other things, it's important to know that you are not what you write. Beginner writers often hold themselves back from putting what they want to on the page for fear of what others may think of them. One of the reasons is because they think that they are what they write, and everything they put on the page defines them as people. While it is true that everything you write comes from somewhere inside you, and you might be relating to true elements within yourself, it still does not define who you are. It is not you. Think about a meditation session. When you sit with your thoughts and feelings and simply observe them, that's all you're doing. You're observing them as they pass. You don't become them. You don't take them on. They just come and go, and you let them flow through your consciousness and your conscious awareness. These feelings and emotions you have don't define you and your existence as a person. They simply exist as something to observe until they pass. They may or may not convey a message to you that then you may or may not listen to. Your writing and your experiences are the same. They don't define you. They simply exist. You can observe them and be curious about them, but you don't have to let them define your entire being or who you are. There are just many things in life that come and go, like the ebb and flow of an ocean tide. If you understand that you are not your writing, it will open you up to write freely without fear of being judged by your words. Number 2 is the knowledge that the art is the focus, not you. You're not the focus of whatever you create. You're simply the vessel that your writing or your message is speaking through or from. This is where the phrase, "you don't choose writing, writing chooses you," stems from. Your words have a mind of their own. Your writing has a mind of its own, and it's not you. We know this because we can go out on the streets and go about our daily lives, living life as human beings, and then at the end of the day, come back, pick up a pen, or open our laptops and build vast fairy tale fantastical worlds filled with mythical creatures that don't exist in our daily real world lives. The things we write are simultaneously removed from ourselves while also being pushed out from inside of ourselves. As Neil Gaiman has famously said, no matter what happens in your life, make great art. Put the focus on the art, the piece of work you are creating. It is a thing that forms outside of yourself. Don't try to control it or make it about you. Just let it take shape. Let it take on its own form. Number 3 is focus on the message. Remove yourself from the process. If you truly have a message to convey and you feel that only you can convey it in the way that it needs to be conveyed, then it's no longer about you. It's about the message, and that's what truly matters. The same is true if you want to get over a fear of public speaking. The only reason you're afraid is because you're thinking of only yourself. You're more focused on how people will perceive the messenger than on the message itself. The message is beyond you. It's something much bigger than you. It's outside yourself. Don't get caught up in entangling yourself with that message. Focus on the message and everything else falls away, and you'll see your fear and self-consciousness start to disappear. Now, going back to my series and why I was afraid to write and publish that series. The reason why I had been so afraid of doing that is because I put myself into it. I was writing from myself. I was directly transporting myself into that work of art. And then I felt self-conscious. I felt like when people read it, they were reading me. As a beginner writer, I was writing for an entirely different reason than I do now. I was writing for people to see me. This book, The Boathouse, conversely, was written to portray or convey a message or many messages beyond myself. It was written to speak truths about the world. It was written outside myself. I was detached from my observations. They weren't about me. I approach writing a lot differently now than when I had first written that series. My series is still up and published and live on Amazon. Feel free to check that out if you're interested. I will link that down in the description below. And it exists as a reminder of how far I've come with my own writing. I still have a ways to go, but it helps to be able to see how far I've progressed already. So I encourage you to let the creative energy guide you. Let it enter, flow through you, and move your pen across the page, all without fear. Be brave, speak your truth, and write outside yourself. And publish without fear. Until next time, bye for now.